All right, so I am back with another video on Louis Vuitton inspired fragrances. And these fragrances in this video are going to be inspired by Louis Vuitton's Imagination. All right, so I've got two newer, I guess you could say, releases. One is definitely one of the newest from Haramain, and this is under their Amber Oud line. This is Amber Oud Aqua Dubai from Haramain. And then the other fragrance that I have here is actually from Joe Milano, which I've been delving into the house of Joe Milano a lot here lately. And this is their Game of Spades Full House. All right. So just going to be going over these two fragrances and, kind of giving my sort of, thoughts on both of these fragrances in terms of, obviously how close they come to the original, as well as the performance and stuff like that. All right. Now, as far as like the note breakdown of the Haramain, it is actually a lot different from what you get from the original Louis Vuitton. All right. So in the top notes of the Haramain Aqua Dubai, you get bergamot, mandarin orange, and green notes. In the mid, you get amber, melon, blackcurrant, and pineapple. And in the base, you get musk, petitgrain, galbanum, and vanilla. All right, so a much different sort of note breakdown than what you would get with something like Louis Vuitton's Imagination. I'll have the notes for Imagination over here, so you all can see that. All right, and then for the notes of the Joe Milano Game of Spades Full House. These notes, or at least the note breakdown that I'm seeing on the Joe Milano Paris website, they do appear to be like the exact same note breakdown as what you would get with Imagination. So in the top notes, I'm seeing here that you are getting Sicilian orange, citron, and Calabrian bergamot in the top notes. And then in the mid, you get Tunisian neroli, Nigerian ginger, and Ceylon cinnamon. And then in the base, you have the Chinese black tea, Gaiac wood, olibanum, and ambroxan. So I do believe that that's the exact same note breakdown as what you get with Imagination. All right. Now, in terms of like the comparison of smell between these two, when compared to the Imagination. All right. And so just for the presentation of both. Obviously here with the Game of Spades Full House, you're getting, the same sort of, presentation that you would get with all the other sort of Game of Spades fragrances, except this one just kind of has like a blue and silverish, sort of color scheme. But you have here Game of Spades Full House, the spade here, and this is a parfum concentration. This is also, like all of the other bottles, a 100 ml bottle. You've got nothing on the top, the bottom, or either side of the box. And then just on the back here, you've got like the barcode, the ingredients, stuff like that. All right. And then just like the others, this opens up like that and the bottle sits inside. All right. So you're getting the same type of bottle that you get with all the other sort of Game of Spades fragrances. You've got the spade here on top of the cap, name of the fragrance on the front of the bottle, and then you've got a sticker down here at the bottom. All right. Now for the Haramain Aqua Dubai, this one, just like all of the other sort of, Haramain Amber Oud fragrances, you kind of get this brushed aluminum sort of middle part here of the box. The rest of the box is like a plastic. But you have the name of the fragrance down here, Amber Oud Dubai, Aqua Dubai, I'm sorry. And then this is a extrait de parfum, all right? You've got nothing on the top, the bottom, nothing on either side. And then on the back, you just have like the sort of ingredients, barcode, stuff like that, all right? And then obviously, just like all the other sort of Haramain Amber Oud fragrances, opens up like that, and then the bottle just kind of sits inside there. All right. So that is what you have as far as the box goes. And then this looks like, really any other sort of Amber Oud fragrance, that you get from Haramain. This, just like the Dubai Night, is also a 75 ml. So you have the Amber Oud here, as well as the Aqua Dubai 75 ml extrait. All right, so you've got all of that written down here at the bottom. You've got nothing like on the back of the bottle, no sticker down here on the bottom, and then you've got the Al Haramain kind of like engraved or etched into like the top of the cap. All right. Now, the sprayers on both of these are actually very, very good. So they are like really good pressurized sort of sprayers. Let me just see here. I really can't say one is better than the other. I feel like, you know, the sprayers on both of these are about the same, but they are definitely, you know, more kind of premium style sprayers. So that's what you have there for the presentation for both of these fragrances. All right. Now, in terms of like the comparison of smell between the Game of Spades Full House, the Aqua Dubai, and Imagination, what I will say is these two fragrances, the Full House and the Aqua Dubai, so far anyway, they seem to be like the closest inspired fragrances to Imagination that I've smelled so far. All right. So, you know, better than, you know, Alexandria's Visionary, I would say. Better than Essence de Blanc. You know, better really than any other Imagination inspired fragrance that I've smelled. So that I can definitely say for sure, just, you know, kind of right off the bat. Now, do these completely beat out Imagination? I would say not necessarily. Now, they do beat out Imagination in some areas of the fragrance. And I'll kind of go over each one of those here in just a moment. But I think overall, if we're talking about, you know, quality of smell, the Imagination is still going to be, you know, the best out of all of these in terms of, you know, just how well blended the fragrance is, you know, just the overall smell. I do think that the Louis Vuitton is the better, you know, blended and better smelling overall fragrance. Now, in the immediate opening, what you're getting is the Louis Vuitton. To me, what I smell, at least in the immediate opening, is you get like this perfect blend of the citruses and the neroli right away. Whereas I would say with both the Full House from Joe Milano as well as the Al Haramain, both of these have a slightly more sort of sweeter smell to them. And I'm not really getting like the neroli right away, you know, or I can't really detect much neroli right away from either one of these, at least in that first initial blast. Whereas definitely that soapy neroli is there right away, you know, when you first spray the Louis Vuitton. Now, there is, like, when it comes to that citron note, you know, within Louis Vuitton's Imagination, it is a sort of juicy, watery sort of citron, you know, smell that you get, but it also, it smells like you're also sort of getting like the rind of the citron as well. Almost kind of like, you know, the citruses have been sort of zested, like the skin of the citruses. That's sort of the feel that I get from the Imagination. Now, I do think that that does start to come out a little bit later in the Full House and the Aqua Dubai. But it is a little bit more realistic in the Imagination for sure. Now, that part of it, the rindiness, that I actually get a little bit more of in the Aqua Dubai than what I get in the Full House. All right. Now, once these start to transition, the main difference that I start to get is, and this is for about like the first probably 15 minutes or so of the fragrances. What I get is the Full House as well as the Aqua Dubai. They seem to be slightly heavier on the citrus note, especially like the mandarin orange and like the sort of bergamot note. They seem to be slightly heavier on those notes than what the Louis Vuitton is. All right. And like I said, this is going to be for like the first sort of 15 minutes of the fragrance. So basically like the opening of the fragrance, you know, kind of before it sort of transitions into like the true mid of the fragrance. Yeah, that's definitely what I get. So definitely there's a slightly heavier emphasis on the citruses in both of these. And then also there is a slightly more sort of sweeter smell to both the Full House as well as the Amber Oud Aqua Dubai. Now, is this something that I think that anybody would really be able to tell in the air? I don't really think so. I don't think that this is something that you could tell in the air. I think that this is more so something that you have to smell the fragrances up close on your skin, and you have to also smell them side by side with the original to really be able to pick out the differences. All right. I think if you're just someone who is, you know, sort of familiar with the scent profile of, you know, Imagination, I think if you were to just smell these two on your skin and you didn't have Imagination next to it to kind of, you know, go side by side, I think that, you know, most people would probably say, oh yeah, this is exactly like Imagination, until you actually, you know, get the real Imagination side by side. And then you can kind of pick apart, you know, little sort of subtle nuances between the fragrances. The other thing too that I get from the Imagination is Imagination to me seems to be slightly more kind of like on the watery side, more so than what the Full House and the Aqua Dubai are. Aqua Dubai and Full House, to me, they come across, like I said, as slightly more sweeter, slightly more on like the citrus heavy side, you know. But also, to me, they do have a slightly heavier emphasis on kind of like ambroxan and musk. To me, the Aqua Dubai is a little bit heavier on that than what the Full House is. But, you know, even the Full House, the Game of Spades Full House, it does have a slightly heavier sort of ambroxan, you know, kind of musky sort of smell to it than what Imagination does. And it's not as watery as what Imagination is. Now, that could also have something to do with the fact that, you know, this is an extrait de parfum and this is a parfum, whereas the Imagination is an eau de parfum. So possibly, you know, the way that the, you know, sort of ingredients come off in that sort of, you know, concentration may be a little bit different. I'm not sure. You know, more than likely it's just due to the materials, you know, that's being used in the Imagination are just higher quality and more expensive. But that's really the main kind of difference that I get from, you know, the Imagination when compared to the other two fragrances. Is this definitely comes off as, you know, watery, more watery than what the other two do. All right. So I do feel like once you kind of get past that first 15-minute part, you know, of kind of like the opening of the fragrances, that's when the Full House and, you know, the Aqua Dubai, they start to become a lot closer to Imagination. The mid and the dry down is definitely, in my opinion, you know, where both of these absolutely shine when compared to the Imagination. So to me, the Full House is definitely, it's hands down the closer fragrance than what the Aqua Dubai is. The Aqua Dubai, just overall, like I said, it does have a slightly more kind of like muskier, sort of feel to the fragrance overall. And it doesn't have the exact same sort of crispness and brightness that you get like in that far dry down of Imagination. Whereas to me, the Full House, it does that very, very nicely when compared to Imagination. I would just say the difference though is everything is sort of amped up in Full House when compared to Imagination. So really both of these have better projection, and about the same longevity, at least on my skin anyway, when compared to Imagination. But these definitely, these project way better than what Imagination does. All right. Now, what you get with that extra sort of, projection and performance is you do kind of get like a compromise on like the blend quality. All right. So I guess you could say that this is, like I said, it is a little bit more muskier. And also it doesn't smell as sort of soft and elegant and as high quality as what the Imagination does, in the dry down. All right. And I guess you could say really at any point in time of, the life of the fragrance, it's not as high quality as what the Louis Vuitton is, but it comes extremely close. The Aqua Dubai, I would say, is like maybe about a half a step down from what the Full House is. So this is just slightly more sort of muskier. And to me, there's a slightly more heavier drop off in the dry down, when it comes to, the quality of the smell with the Aqua Dubai than what it is with the Game of Spades Full House. All right. Now, that is to kind of be expected. The Game of Spades Full House is hands down the most expensive, Louis Vuitton Imagination inspired fragrance that I've actually picked up. This is like around $70 to $75 or so for this 100 ml, which is still a pretty, good value, especially when compared to the original fragrance. Whereas the Aqua Dubai, this is a 75 ml, and I think I paid like around 45 or so for this fragrance. So, slightly less juice, but, almost about half the price as what the Game of Spades Full House is. All right. Now, just to kind of go over the performance officially on these, like I said, the projection on both of these are at least double the projection as what you get with Imagination. Imagination, while this does linger on my skin, a pretty long time, it is technically more of sort of like a softer kind of fragrance. All right. And I think that's what it's intended to be. It's intended to be just really sort of fresh, uplifting, bright, but yet at the same time kind of soft and elegant, really clean smelling, summer and springtime type of fragrance. And really all of the Louis Vuitton fragrances, especially the fresher ones, they do kind of have, that same sort of softness, the same sort of elegance to them, that you get with, from Jacques Cavalier, or Jacques Cavalier, I'm sorry, being the perfumer of all these fragrances. He does kind of have like this same sort of signature style, especially, that he does with these more kind of fresher fragrances. All right. These, like I said, are definitely a lot more on the beast mode side when it comes to that projection. And even the sillage. The sillage is definitely more than what you get with Imagination as well. Now, in terms of the longevity was never really an issue for me with Imagination. I always get about 12 plus hours with, Louis Vuitton's Imagination. Now, yes, mind you, it is going to be more on sort of like the softer side, the longer that you get into the fragrance. But it's definitely a fragrance that I've been able to smell the next day on me for sure. All right. And same thing with these fragrances, except, again, you are going to smell these a lot more during the life of the fragrances. than what you would with Imagination, because they do push out a little bit more. All right. And like I said, really, you are kind of sacrificing, a slight bit of quality, but it's really not that much at all. It's really not. So these are easily, I would say, the best two, Imagination inspired fragrances that you can get. So when it comes to my closeness rating on each one of these, the Full House, I'm going to say, is at least about 97% close for the most part to Imagination. There's, like I said, little differences sort of here and there that I get with this fragrance. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, these are differences that you really kind of have to nitpick and pick out. And you have to have the original fragrance right next to it, really, to be able to tell. These are not really differences that you'll really be able to tell in the air. All right. And then with the Aqua Dubai from Haramain, this one I would say is about a 95% close. So still extremely close to the original Louis Vuitton. And I mean, you are, for the most part, getting pretty much the same, experience, really. All right. So really, really good interpretations on these, man. And if I'm going to give these an overall rating, I would give the Full House easily like a 9.7 out of 10. So almost a 10 out of 10 for sure on this one. And then the Aqua Dubai, I would give more sort of like a 9 out of 10. All right. Now, do I intend to keep both of these? I don't really know. I think for sure I am going to keep the Full House as kind of like a backup, or maybe I could even layer it with the Imagination to kind of get, better projection out of the fragrance. But the Aqua Dubai, it is still a very close interpretation to the fragrance. Like I said, the quality on this is very good, just not obviously as good as the Imagination. This is just going to be, like I said, a slightly more sort of, muskier take on the scent profile, slightly muskier and a little bit more sweeter. Like I said, this one also does have a slightly more sweeter emphasis as well, but it's really not that noticeable at all. All right. So really, really impressed with both of these, man. I would definitely recommend, either one of these. So, if you can't get your hands on Joe Milano fragrances where you're at, and the only thing that you have access to is the Haramain Aqua Dubai, then absolutely go with the Aqua Dubai. And like I said, you're gonna, for the most part, get about the same, experience with this fragrance. If you do have access to both of these fragrances, and maybe this one is a little bit too expensive for you, then go ahead and go with the Aqua Dubai. This is consistently less than what the Game of Spades is. But if you can't afford to pay around like that $70 to $80 for a fragrance, and you want something that is as close as possible to Imagination without actually getting the real thing, then I do think that for sure the Joe Milano Game of Spades Full House is absolutely the best one to go with. All right. So that is my take on Game of Spades Full House as well as Aqua Dubai. Let me know in the comments what you all think about my thoughts on these fragrances. Do you agree with how close my assessments are as far as how close these come to the original fragrances? And if not, let me know in the comments. Also, if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. And also, I'll have links in the description to where you can purchase these fragrances as well. And again, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see y'all in the next video.